Welcome each one of you. I'm Sudaruli from the Prajnya Trust. I'm very glad to welcome each one of you to this Prajnya Equality Colloquium series. And this series happens every year in the month of April in commemoration of Dr. Ambedkar's birthday. The series has four lectures, 2 in English and 2 in Tamil. And the basic objective of the series is to provide a platform to have a healthy conversation on gender and caste and gender. It is happening in all the Fridays of April every year. And this year, this is the third of its kind. And today's lecture is the curtain riser with Ms. Cynthia Stephen, the great speaker, Cynthia Stephen, and who is going to talk on the impact of gender and caste on the lives of the marginalized sections. She doesn't need a introduction because you all know about her and she's the great speaker. And I just want to have a brief introduction. I'm so much privileged to do that. Cynthia Stephen is 1 minute. Yeah, Cynthia Stephen is an independent social policy researcher and analyst and independent journalist. And she is also a well-known trainer on gender policy and development issues. And she has written a large number of articles for newspapers, magazines, and journals, as well as contributed chapters to several books, including on the girl child and experiences of discrimination in higher education in India. Her body of work includes leadership in several people's initiative for justice in large countrywide women's empowerment groups and theoretical work on women's concerns from the unrecognized perspective of women and girls from the large number of marginalized sections in India. She is the president of Training, Editorial and Development Services Trust, and it is based on Bangalore, India. So over to you, ma'am. I'm not going to take much of your time. So we are more excited to hear you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I enjoy these opportunities to speak and learn and interact with the women from the sector and also young people. I'm very obliged to Prajnya Trust for inviting me as a speaker for this year's caste and gender program that you have during the Dalit History Month. Truly, it is an important and significant month and event because all of us need to remember our history. The thing about the Dalit community, the marginalized communities, is that it is said that we are the people who do not have a history. We know that that is not the case. And but in fact, that our histories exist in our lives and in our bodies, in our stories, and in our songs, poems, and in the kinds of work that we do, in the artworks that we produce. It may be that our histories do not figure in much of the books, the textbooks, because as you know, history is always written by the victors. And as of now, we have not been the victors in the social sense, in the sense of being in the mainstream in knowledge building processes. But as a parallel stream, our knowledge, our literature, our orality, all this continues, our cultural artifacts, all these continue in our own ways. But having remembered that our histories are also to be written by us, we need to also celebrate our own lives, celebrate our ancestors and our triumphs in the future and in the present. So therefore, I think it's a very significant move that you are having to organize these talks every year during the Dalit History Month. You have given me the topic, the impact of caste and gender on Dalits and the marginalized. For me, since I come to this discipline from the background of gender and women's studies, it is natural for me to talk about the lives of Dalit women in particular, and girl child also. The Dalit community in general, and the girl child and women in particular, and their lives. And what has been the, to understand a little more about the impact of the caste system on the Dalit community or the marginalized sections, it's not only the Dalits, but also other marginalized sections. We need to understand the social structure that is there. At the risk of being boring, I will just briefly outline, just as a framework in which to place what we are talking about. The Chaturvarna system, which is the Brahminical system of dividing hierarchical division of society based on their occupational category. But it's not just occupational. There are many other aspects which I will explain right now. So we have heard that there is a story in one of the Rigveda, in the song called the Purusha Sukta, which talks about the primordial creation, the Brahma, his creation in that story of creation. Brahma, from the head of Brahma is said to emerge the Brahmin, who are supposed to be the priests. Then from their shoulders are supposed to emerge the Kshatriyas, who are supposed to be the kings and political personalities. From his thighs come the Vaishyas, or the traders, and from below the knee come the so-called Shudras. Now these Shudras are all the skilled working communities, productive sections. These could be all the material science people, that is those who deal with cloth, with metal, with wood, all the material science people, all who make the productive items that human beings need to live their daily lives. Then we have the agriculture, the people who grow food. We have all the others, like the oil pressers, the potters, everything that makes human life. Productive castes are considered to be Shudras, untouchables, untouchable for the three upper castes who are higher above them in the hierarchy. I do not usually use like the term upper caste. I prefer to use the terms oppressive caste, oppressor caste, and dominant caste, and oppressed caste, or lowered caste. This is my terminology. Just to be clear, so that commonly people use upper and lower. We do not agree with that hierarchical understanding. Okay, so now what about the Dalits, who are considered the untouchables or outcasts? They are considered the last of the least, who come even below that. That is below the knee, or they don't fall into the caste system at all. Because this system is supposed to be a four varna system. But then these are called the Panchamas. That is the fifth caste. That is the untouchable caste, or those who don't fall into the caste system. Where is the practice? Where are the practices? What are the practices relating to these categories? These are codified in a book known as, or a literary text known as the Manusmriti. So this Manusmriti is a 800 or so, like 8th century text, and it is supposed to have it is supposed to be a codification of the existing caste practices. Basically, it talks about how what are the laws relating to the various kinds of crimes, what are the duties and responsibilities in various categories. Now, people will say, but we do not follow the Manusmriti. Nobody knows the Manusmriti. Actually, if you look carefully, there is one very famous saying, Na Stri Swatantra Marhati. That means woman is not worthy of freedom. Why is she not worthy of freedom? Because she is always she has very sexual thoughts and needs always to be controlled. So when she is young, she's controlled, she's under male control always. She's under the control of the father, later on the husband, and in her old age, presuming the husband is no longer alive, the son. So therefore, the woman is not supposed to have autonomy or agency. That is what this Manusmriti enjoins. At the same time, it also treats the what it calls either they say either Chandala or Shudra. That is the other all the people of the the fourth caste. Now that means that in this system, only the upper caste, I mean the dominant caste males, the first three categories who are called the twice born, they are the ones who have any value. The law is made for them, and everybody else is there to serve them. The entire process of life of the woman is based only on her reproductive capabilities. And so therefore, whether she is from which caste she belongs doesn't become, it is immaterial. The fact is, for a woman, she is only a reproductive person. She has no agency, and all she is to be done is to be controlled. And this is the similar understanding that exists for the male and female of the fourth castes and the fourth and fifth caste. Let's put it like the fourth and the fifth caste. Now, please note that if you look at it from a modern sociological understanding, the priesthood that represents the religious superstructure, the kings represent the political superstructure, the traders represent the economic superstructure, and so this superstructure in this system, all the economically productive sections, whether they are farmers, carpenters, blacksmiths, oil pullers, weavers, cobblers, whatever, all these are the actual ones doing the economically productive activity. The others are, and they are considered to be quote unquote slaves. And they are not supposed to have any right to their own earnings in this system, according to this system. This has to be first understood. Furthermore, the reproductive capabilities of the women are also similarly controlled. So the girl is to be married. There is a rule that she should be married before she comes of age. So that means that if she is 9 to 10 years old, already she is considered to be worthy of marriage. And if the parents don't get her married, there are some social strictures on them. So there are sayings which says that, if the parents don't get the girl married, then it is as if they are carrying burning coals in their lap. So that means first thing they have to do is get rid of this burden. So what is the reason for that? Of course, we know that the reason for that is to control the female's reproductive capability in the context of controlling her sexuality. In other words, her reproductive capacity. So the child which is born from that woman, the child from the womb of the girl has to be born of a man from the same caste. If that is the duty of the parents to ensure. This is the holy duty, sacred duty of the parents. And if that does not happen, then they are considered to be it is a very, very condemnable situation. This is the way the caste system impacts every girl child, every woman in this country, even to the present day. How does it impact? By early marriage, by forced marriage, by lack of choice and agency, by limited amount of access to education, lack of access to jobs for women. And so the woman is only reared for domestic duties. She is born, and that I've heard even senior doctors saying, all said and done, I'd go to the hospital, I've done everything, then I come back and still I have to do the cooking. A lady of an older generation, an older lady, she's saying, the servant was telling me, what is the use, madam? You're a big doctor, you're going and coming to the office, but when you come home, you're only cooking in the house. So even, to this day, we have been socialized into accepting these gender roles of domestic duties. That is cooking, cleaning, caring for the elders, caring for the children, the cleanliness of the house, the water-related activities. So this is the duty that is pushed upon the female. So this is the impact of the caste system and understanding the Brahminical caste system on women overall. Now, coming to the specific situation of the Dalit women. I like to talk about gender, the impact of gender on women's bodies by, we do a sketch. Some of you might be familiar with this exercise. So you go from the top to the bottom, you draw a female, and then we say, okay, what do you know? From the top to the bottom, how is a woman's or a girl child supposed to behave? So hair, it has to be tightly combed. The hair has to be grown long, come to the forehead. There has to be a pottu on the forehead. Then she has to wear, kajal. She has to pierce the ear, and and then the nose. Every inch of the body she has to have this. If she doesn't, then she's condemned. She has to wear jewelry, preferably gold jewelry. These are the kind of expectations that society has cast upon the girls, and any departure from that is considered to be non-traditional. Of course, nowadays it may not be so rigid and strict, but even now during, there are these basic expectations of dressing in a particular way, and using, always having married people having their nose rings, and then women always having to wear bindi. So, some modification is there, but it is not, you're not exempt from many of the things that are basic. So these are the practices. How does it impact a Dalit woman? Now, in the house, you know how essential water is. Any duty in the house, any cleaning duty, any human being cannot survive without water for drinking or for cleanliness. Whose duty is it to ensure that water comes to the house? Water is available in the house. In a village, the women have to go to the well or bring the water from the tap. Or if there's running water in the house, they have to fill and keep the tanks filled and the pots and all that filled. Early morning, she has to get up, sprinkle the water on the floor, and wash the front door. Water is very closely linked with household duties. Now, what is the access that a Dalit woman has to water? Is she readily able to go to the tap and bring her water? Is she readily able to go to the well and bring the water? If not, what is the way? So, so these are the ways in which families, the Dalit women have to struggle a lot for access to water. I have heard girls saying, Akka, when we go to bring water, and then they will not get water in the village well. They are living outside the village. So they go to the nearby field to bring the water. I have heard people, one girl was telling me long back, and it is still true, because even in our state in Karnataka, this is the same story. When we go to the well, when we go to the field to bring water, we don't know what will happen. Anyone can threaten us, anyone can chase us out, anyone can sexually abuse us, can call us names. So there is so much of risk that they have to take just for water in the house. Without the basic element of water, how can you have health? How much of stress is there on the person who has to fetch the water under such stress? What is the amount of emotional and physical energy she will utilize to bring this water? And then won't she get angry if they waste the water? Won't that cause conflict in the house? Do the men understand what is the problem that they're facing? Do they do anything about it? Is that then a cause for a huge amount of conflict in the family? What about health issues? Women need a lot of water to keep themselves clean in hygiene, in matters of hygiene. For during their menstruation, they have to take bath, they have to wash their stuff and all that. When they're fetching the water, don't you think that they will limit the quantity of water they use for themselves, because they have other duties as well? How does the government system respond to this? Supposing we have a water problem, we will make a phone call to the to the water supply authority and make a thing. Now I have seen in cities like Chennai, I have seen when there is this slum resettlement, they build these 4-story, 5-story, 6-story buildings. The water tap will be down. How do the water reach the top? There is no question of some pumping up the water, pipe water. Concept of that doesn't arise in the design of also of the construction. Tell me, isn't this a caste mediated discrimination on access to water to slum dwellers, generally who tend to be from very poor and there is no Manusmriti, nobody follows. We are for looking for grooms for our looking for. Even if they don't study their degree, doesn't matter. Second year degree, she study, get her married afterwards. If you want, we continue. If they agree in their family, you continue your studies. Right now, getting married is more important. Cheaty, they will start saving. When the girl is still in school, they'll start saving money for jewelry and all that instead of investing in her education. Families fall into huge amounts of debts because the lack of agency given to the poor women in their lives. So the ones who escape this are the middle classes, the non-dominant, even if they're close to the land communities, some other work, some land-related work they're doing, then the girls managed to get an education. But the poorer girls, all of you know that many of the girls end up in the garment factories, like almost like bonded labor. They're supposed to work for so long, and their salary is kept aside without giving anything. So at the end of the year or whatever that contract period, they are given this much of money, and that is used for the girl's own marriage. So these are the ways in which lack of economic options become very, very harmful for even the generation of we all know that if a woman is educated, the entire family gets educated. But if the woman's focus, then the question of now, therefore, the government will ensure that there are differential rates, percentage, a different percentage will be the cutoff percentage will be there for people from disadvantaged communities. Some such adjustment has been made due to our, constitution written by Dr. Ambedkar, due to which some improvement and access to education and jobs has been assured. But what is the real reason? I just read last week an article which said that in our professional institutions, about 19,000 students dropped out of SC, ST, and OBC students dropped out of the institutions of higher learning. System them to continue. Some people commit suicide. Some people drop out. Some people are with great difficulty. They struggle and pass and come out. Only some are able to flourish. This is also again a systematic discrimination is happening even in the institutions of higher learning and even in colleges and in schools and high schools. And we know that what happened when NEET has been announced in Tamil Nadu particularly, there's been a lot of discussion around that, a lot of agitations. Government has also come and spoken to the central government. The reason is this is the lack of access. Now, to understand how this functions, how this is impacting people's lives, it is useful to see how so many 100 years ago, a certain scheme of things was made, which only now Amartya Sen has tried to explain. And he uses something called capability theory. Some of you will already be aware of it, those who study. But the capabilities approach talks about the quality of life that people can achieve. So the impact of the caste system is directly on the quality of life, where I'm talking about lack of water, therefore lack of time, so therefore there's no mobility, therefore there is the lack of health. So all this is a limitation on the individual's human capabilities. Not only the individual, but the family of that woman who is supposed to maintain. So even if you just look at the lack of access to water, that itself will have so many implications for the entire family if you look at a Dalit family. So she struggles and struggles, gets the water. After that, she runs for coolie work. If she is late, she gets into trouble. Her coolie get cut. So immediately, then again, her amount will, the earnings will be affected. So therefore, direct impact upon the quality of life. So the quality of life is, and I'm reading from a summarization of Amartya Sen's capability theory. So this quality of life is analyzed in terms of the central concepts of function and capability. Sen argues that the correct approach to assessing how well people are doing is their ability to live a life that we have reason to value, not their wealth of resources or subjective well-being. But to begin to assess how people perform in terms of capacity, we first need to determine which functions are important to the good life and how much, or at least we need to specify an assessment procedure. So therefore, the point is that that is a very, very basic understanding, and we're talking about capabilities and all that. But first things first, food and water is denied. The Manusmriti, to go back to the Manusmriti is also very, very specific on how these, what clothes each section of society can wear. And it is very clear that the Chandalas are not, the untouchables are not supposed to live in houses made of walls. They are supposed to live only in houses made of grass and twigs. It is clear. I don't believe me. Please open the Manusmriti. It's available online. Open and read. And they are not supposed to cook in metal vessels. They are supposed to use only vessels made of clay. Then they're also not supposed to cook often. Actually, they're supposed to live on food that has been begged from people from where they work. So if there are, for instance, manual scavengers, even to this day, in Gujarat and in Punjab, Haryana, some parts of Uttar Pradesh, right, dry rations are still there. And still women go to clean the toilets. And what is their payment? Basi roti, old rotis. So every day they make roti in the house. But in the night when they make their rotis, they will keep 2 rotis aside separately for the woman to come to give in the morning. They won't give the hot roti which is made in the morning. Only basi roti is given, old food is given. This is the way that practice is still doing now. Is he says that these women are not supposed to wear costly clothes. They're supposed to wear only old clothes. That's why even now in villages you will see people selling second-hand clothes. If you go to it is not only due to poverty, it's also due to the thing that the cost. It's costly to buy new clothes. That is true, but the market for second-hand clothes exists because of this enjoining that the lower castes should wear old clothes. So there is a market for that. It's buy the clothes, wash them, iron them, and sell them to the less privileged. So it has permeated food, clothes, shelter, everything. Even food, I told you, cooking your food, how you cook your food. That is why when Baba Saheb was there, he tells the women, make sure that you dress neatly. Don't wear old and dirty looking clothes. Dress so that your dignity is kept alive. Because this is the important thing. Thank you, Ma. This is the important thing, the lack of dignity. So the entire story of denying people capability is to take away their dignity. What you eat, what you wear, what work you do, and where you live, and the kind of clothes you wear. All this is becomes a net. A net of all this is what the human person is in terms of dignity. So if you are wearing old clothes, live in a poor locality, and have a very poorly built house, so your dignity, your self-esteem is not likely to be very high. And this is how there is an entire system of social engineering designed to keep masses of our fellow citizens under the level for dignity. This has to be clearly understood. And that is why we need to, and that is exactly why Ambedkar in his constitution laid so much of an emphasis on education and employment. for the marginalized sections. That is why he talks about reservation for their political representation. But you see, the Pune Pact and the subsequent events show that there was, even despite his best efforts, they have undermined it because they have this control over the system. The system, therefore, even if you get you get enough marks and get in as as a merit candidate or in general list, just because you are from a Sikh background, they will mock and say, yeah, you got due to reservations. Or they will say, if you get scholarship, or they will in Kannada, there is a saying, no, they are the son-in-law of the government. So in this manner, or they say government Brahmins, so they are privileged within the government. This is the kind of language used. So ultimately there is a robbing of the capability, robbing of the dignity, and this is the greatest and most important impact, I would say. And this has to be clearly understood. The way language, see, in the villages, you will find that even small children will address the men, grown-up elderly males and females of the Dalit community by their first name. Whereas for others, they will say uncle, auntie, mommy, Anna, or something like that. Some respectful. This is the taking away of the dignity. The child grows up thinking that it is entitled to call them by their names. So this is the lack of denial of, this is the tactic of denying of dignity and infantilizing the people from the lower castes. So this is a very huge impact that has divided the society so strongly, and therefore the attempt to correct this is what was attempted in the Constitution of India. Now, to go back to what I was saying about the capabilities approach. So it is a very simple understanding, a very basic understanding. It looks like it's oversimple, but it is a really a useful way to understand how it has been, our capabilities have been damaged by this system. So therefore, now, as I said, Amartya Sen has written a system talking about capabilities. But I tell you, those who framed the caste system was hundreds of years ago, more than 1,000 years ago, they knew what capabilities meant and how to remove the capability. That is the genius of our society and its people. That we are always thinking of how to undermine rather than build up. So it is unfortunate, and we don't want to be like that. We want to really, all of us, work together. As in our Constitution, we talk about the value of liberty, equality, and fraternity. The important thing is fraternity. You can be equal, but you cannot be fraternal. So, for instance, we all will get into the bus, we all will get into the railway station thing, we'll all sit in the hotel and eat. That is like a semblance of equality. But do we have fraternity? Can I go to your house and eat there? Can you come to my house and eat? Can my children play together? Do they go to the same school? Can my son fall in love with your daughter and marry without any problem? This is where our society has placed the rules which divide us. And we need to understand and work systematically to change it so that the constitutional ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity are maintained in our society. So therefore, the human development approach is what we have seen is a phraseology used to understand the impacts of the capability approach. So the capability approach claims that the freedom to achieve well-being is a matter of what people can do and can be. So you need not, our society says, if your father was a Baba, you can only be a Baba. You cannot be a teacher. So it is limiting your capability. You may be very bright, but I know for a fact, I know this is a reality because studies have been done even in Bangalore, even recently, where the children have studied degree, but they don't get office jobs. End up in sweeping the road only, even if they have degrees. They don't get jobs. Why? Because our society doesn't allow them to do what they can, to be what they can be. They only are forced into what the society says they should be. So Sen argue. So therefore, the kind of life they can lead is impacted by this. As Sen argues, people's commodities or wealth or their mental reactions or capabilities are an inappropriate angle because they only provide limited or indirect information about how their life is going. So this is how I would say this is the very insidious way in which the caste system has undermined the capabilities, the potentialities, and the real rights, I can say, the basic rights to human dignity, to the basic needs of food, clothing, shelter, water, education, health of large sections of the marginalized. Because the value of a set of capabilities represents an individual's effective freedom to live a life that is valuable in terms of the value of the functionings available to that individual. When available functionings are enhanced, so is the individual's effective freedom. Why do you think government schools are so badly run? Because if you give them good quality government free education, then they will become equal to your children. So these are, and even to this day, caste is so much a part of our government school system, even the private school system, that even though they said that children can, the government will pay the fees, let there be some shared, let the poor also come and join the private schools. Immediately, the teachers started discriminating against the children who benefited from that quota and joined. So this in our society, the capacity to think of each other as equal has been badly damaged by this caste system, and this has been a very, very serious design defect, systemic defect and that is why our society is one of the most unequal in the world. This is the basic challenge. This is the basic issue. And each of us needs, it's not only gender, but it's also intersectionality of gender and caste and class that has seriously impacted the quality of life of large numbers of our society. So this in a simple way, this is where I'll stop. But I will also, I cannot stop, in fact, without referring to the heightened levels of violence that women in general face. So one knows, even among middle class neighbors, lower middle class neighbors, there are fights in the family. Why? Because the food is late, it is cold, there is not enough salt in the curry. This kind of things become the reason for women to be beaten. And we ask the women whether what is happening is right, they'll say, what to do? I made a mistake, so I have been beaten. There is a socialization which allows the men to exercise physical, violence against their family members. Not only wives, it also happens a lot to young daughters, to sisters. So this is very, very big. Gender violence in our society is a very, very serious issue, security, and also caste-based violence. So we have seen caste-based violence very seriously, and I'm very sorry to say that there is a lot of caste-based violence in Tamil Nadu. It's a matter of great concern, particularly when you talk about the social justice, background, the kind of social reform movements that have happened in the society in Tamil Nadu. And in spite of rationalist movements and so on, the casteism and the violence related to caste and gender is of a very high level, which is very difficult to accept. So I, request each and every thinking person in Tamil Nadu in particular, and in India in general, to focus on why we cannot accept our fellow citizen as equal to us, and what we can do as individuals and as a group, as a family, make a change in these kind of practices. So I think I have more or less covered my time. I'll stop for now and hand over to the moderator, and then maybe there are some questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your thoughtful talk on impact of caste and gender in the in marginalized lives of the marginalized sections. So you start, you beautifully, spoke from the beginning how it caste impacted in the lives of the marginalized sections, and how and also you beautifully spoke about the body what is the basic impact of gender on the bodies, like women bodies. So that is also you pinned it, and then you spoke about basic necessity or education and everything affected also, and you quoted Manusmriti, and this was beautifully flowed into, or it touched upon all the sections of the impact of lives. So I open the question to the floor. So the participants, if you have any questions, please, you can enter in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask the speaker the questions.
I just want to second what Sudhir said, and it was incredibly fluid. All of those separate strands are familiar from different places, but you pulled them together fluidly and extempore, and I'm just so much in awe of what a wonderful introductory lecture this is going to be for people who are searching to learn. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your kind words, ma'am. Very kind of you. No, there is a very famous old song I have heard sung. They say, no, kuila pudichi gundal adichi paadu solagintra ulagam. So this is the kind of capabilities they expect you. They damage your capability. They will ensure that, and in spite of that, they will expect you to play on an equal basis. So that is the way in which the caste system operates in our society, for women as well as for marginalized sections. So I think we need to, all of us, be conscious of this and really work to pull together and see how we can support each other in building each other's capabilities up very strongly. I find the capabilities approach a very simple and easy way to explain the impact of caste in our society.
Yeah, I have a question, ma'am. You were talking about how much the capability, the caste system damaged the capability of the person, right? So they won't get the opportunity. So basically, how this works in the interlinking of both the gender and the caste in this. So basically, we generally spoke about how it damaged the caste system, damaged the capability, but then how it links with the gender. So that I want to know specifically.
I gave the illustration of access to water. So what happens is, if it's a girl from a non-Dalit family, she will go to the well and bring water, and it will be used for the family. A Dalit girl cannot do that. She has to go to the well and wait, somebody will come and pour the water. Or she may have to take the pot and go to some forest or field. And then from there, when she's coming, she might face a lot of, and it will be far away. So for the same 10 pots of water, she will spend 3 hours or 2 hours. Whereas a girl who is from non-Dalit background, she will finish those 10 pots of water in half an hour. So her energy, this girl goes only in that survival task, what we call in gender, and studies. The survival task of providing water to the family will take 3 hours for a Dalit woman and half an hour to a non-Dalit girl. So this is how caste will operate. Very simple. And then after 3 hours of hard work, supposing she goes at school is at 10 and she's filling the water from 7 to 10 o'clock. After 3 hours of hard work, how much of time can she give to quality studies, this Dalit girl? Whereas The non-Dalit girl would have finished her half an hour. She would have had a bath. She would have done her homework. She would have eaten her breakfast. And she would come and sit fresh in the school. Dalit girl may not even have nashta. She may come an empty stomach after 3 hours work. Yeah. So these are the ways in which we can understand. I am a part of my friend runs a school, runs a project known as I Like My Breakfast. One school, they found out that most of the school girls who come there are from working class families, and most of the mothers are working as domestic workers. Usually they will be Dalit or Muslim. And this is in urban Bangalore, and not in a very remote location, in the center of Bangalore only, lower middle class areas. Most of the girls are very dull in the mornings. So we found out that they are not they're coming without food, because mother goes to work, 7 o'clock, she has to be at her place of work. So she has no time or money to make any alternative arrangement for their nashta. So the girls are coming hungry. So this girl did a lot of research. So she has found out ways to give nutritious breakfast to the girls. And with the help of raising funds and this and that, she is providing breakfast to 400, 500 girls. So these are the kind of sensitivities we can grow to enhance the capabilities of young children from the marginalized sections.
Yeah, it's great, ma'am. Thank you for your explanation, ma'am. There is another question here. From Rajiv Anand Pushpa, good evening, ma'am. I have one question based on recent issue. Rogini Theatre in Chennai not allowed the women and her children belongs to marginalized section. Should we approach this on economic basis or on caste basis?
See, the point is that there is no question of economic basis, because they had bought tickets. If that means they have the money. The economy here doesn't come in. It's obviously because of caste. Not only that, remember I told you about the appearance, the dignity, what they wear. Why is it that they are not given much respect? Because they are not dressed like middle class Indians, who are the ones who go to the Rohini theatre. These have come, they're the ones who are, going from street to street selling bangles and stuff like that. No. So they came in the same gear to the theatre. Because they have come like that, that man who is holding the entry, that fellow who sends the people inside, he is chasing them away only because of their dress. And they are dressed like that because of their caste identity. So this is considered as to be without any dignity. But that is wrong. That is not correct. That is not only in a theatre. You can see if you go to, can you see if you go to any of these mainstream chains, that are B2B, and there are so many other chains, food chains. Do you see the poor working class people sitting there and eating? Only middle class, low middle class people who are wearing a certain level of dress only will be there. Otherwise, you will see them standing outside and looking, or they'll be standing and they will eat on roadside pathway shops. So there is an image created of the poor, and we don't like to make any room to allow them to enter into our spaces. So it is on our part a prejudice against the poor and the way they dress. It is not correct.
Ma'am, there is another question, ma'am. Even today, gender and caste are very marginal in political representation. Most of our progressive movements are led by oppressed or socially accepted caste. This is posted by Sujata Modi.
Yes. What is the question though? That's an observation.
Yeah, it's observation. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Marginal in political representation is only partly true, because if you think of the grassroots level local bodies, there are gender and caste is strongly represented there because of reservations, the 50% and 1/3 and 50% reservations. And I think the women in the local bodies are functioning decently well. But how that will translate into the level of representation in assemblies is a question. Well, men have not. There are majority of men in the assemblies, and they are not. They talk that they are supporting women's reservation, but they are not supporting actually, and that is why many governments have come, many Lok Sabhas have come and gone, but they have not taken any step, except at one point UPA 1, I think they passed it in the Rajya Sabha and failed to pass in the Lok Sabha, so it lapsed. So there is a lack of seriousness, but I think it's a matter of time. Another few years, maybe 2-3 more years round, and I think more women will be seen in representation. It has to increase. There's no other way.
Hi Cynthia, can you hear me? Hi, Cynthia.
Yes.
So nice to see you after such a long time. We were together in Mahila Samakhya once upon a time. Yeah. So this is not a question, Cynthia. But anyway, thank you so much. It was such a illustrative, बहुत अच्छा लगा सुन के. I sometimes it's not a question. I just want to understand from you, because you are very much in this issue, and must be also facing the same dilemma, which I also sometimes think. I primarily work in Bihar, and of course, many of the women from so-called lower castes, I won't say them lower caste, but yes, the society names them as lower caste. They say that the upper caste don't allow them to do puja and all those rituals before they have completed. Fine. So they have to queue, they have to wait, and once they have done it, then they allow them to, okay, now you also go ahead and do whatever you want to do. So I used to question, but now I even don't question that. So I just want to understand why there is so much urge to even enter those spaces which don't give you or provide you, give you a sense of dignity. Why do we have that urge to ki, oh, at least they should let us enter the temple? Why should we have that let them have their own temple, let them go to hell, let them not let us not, why should we even have this urge of going to the same temple or doing puja for the same god which they believe in, and the god doesn't really provide you the same status, which one is that. Second, even in the Dalits, we see that there is a Paswan, there is a Ram. Now these are two and they also have so much hierarchy among themselves. So how do we understand this? Like in Brahmins also you see so many clans, like a superior Brahmin, a lower Brahmin. Similarly, this subcaste within caste is also so much in ingredient in that in the psyche. So I sometimes feel you have given a very good analysis of how this caste marginalizes communities, but women are much more further marginalized. But then I think there is something deeper to understand, and maybe I really wonder how overpowering this caste notion is, and people are really not able to think beyond their caste.
I partly agree and I partly disagree with you. Yeah. By the way, I didn't get your name. Your name says
Hi, Cynthia. I'm Santosh. I was in Mahila Samakhya National Office, if you remember.
Your name again? What's that?
Santosh Sharma. You remember? I was in National.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Then it's different. That's why. Great. So see, one thing is about temple. See, the temple in a village represents a certain identity or rootedness. And so people, if they are from a village, then they will have some kind of affinity towards the temple. And maybe that is the reason. I agree with you. I also don't understand why people have to go and where they are not wanted, why they have to force their way into places and worship gods who has no respect for them. That is personally my personal view. But I also sympathize and empathize with their desire to be like others. In the village, everybody goes, we also should go. It is a right they feel. One. Secondly, don't forget that in the village, if there is a temple, that everybody would have had something to do with building that temple or keeping it going. So in our South Indian villages, they are supposed to give free labor. Vetti chakri they call it. That is free labor. They're supposed to do free work during the temple festival and all. They have to give up labor work and do free work for the temple. That is their investment in the temple. So why should they not have right? That is how they argue. That is the one side. And the other side, you're talking about the subcaste identities and why are they so unable to rise above their, their birth identities. I think there is a difference in understanding. That is because we are overlapping two different things. One is caste and one is, jati and varna. Jati is something that predates varna system. The jatis, they are born into a guild or an active. So there are weavers, there are carpenters, there are royal pullers, there are people they're herders, cattle herders, sheep herders, and different categories, and blacksmiths. So these occupational categories used to be there, and they were not necessarily hierarchical in their identity. They were just occupational guilds. Those are jatis. So Janjati also they say that is a local way of grouping themselves, and the varna system was an overlay on that. So that was my point, that all the productive people are now treated as slaves because they need to be exploited for the benefit of people who have cunningly created a system which takes their labor and benefits themselves. So that is the genius, if you like, of caste, that it makes willing slaves of large sections of populations, and that like patriarchy, which make willing slaves of half the population, that is the females. So that is why we say patriarchy is a deadly combination. Thank you for your observations, Santosh.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. There is another question you have here. So women from marginalized communities face discrimination when they represent public officers for their basic rights. Based on your experience, how do we address the issue with the participation of the marginalized communities? This is from Anthony Stephen.
Women from marginalized communities face discrimination when they represent public offices for their see, this is true. The point is that it is this is true. The point is that is because of the two things. One is the low status given to women in general, and marginalized women, caste women in particular. So this is a very mutilation of their human. The answer to that is punish these people for not taking correct action when the women do it. So if we get a few of these officials who are arrogant punished by complaining to a DC or something like that, I think the law does permit that. So we can go and represent and say that these people are not listening to us. Get together, do some agitation, and ensure that you get justice and your voice is heard. Some amount of citizen, activity is needed. Activism is needed.
I wanted to ask you actually if you would care to or be comfortable sharing your experience. I mean, you've made a foray into political activity, mainstream politics, which very few of us in academics or in the social sector do. We theorize a lot about it, but it would be nice. I mean, what helped you make the decision to enter politics, and what has your experience been like? And I'm just curious to know, because also very few women in politics write about themselves. Women typically don't talk about themselves, and we are very unlikely to see memoirs and autobiographies from women in politics. So I'm trying to push you in that direction.
Right, sure. So the reason I got into mainstream politics is an outcome, in fact, interestingly enough, of my academic work. When I had registered for my PhD, my topic was political empowerment of Dalit women in Karnataka. Because Karnataka had done 3 to 4 cycles of, we were the first in the country to have elections for, based on reservations. And so lots of women had come into elected positions. So we had lots of elected women representatives in Karnataka. So I assumed that 15 to 20 years down the line, there must be a lot of people who have got into politics. So that was the reason I chose the topic. But when I went to the field, I found that there was a net politically empowered woman of one. There was only one Dalit woman who had been Miss Motama, who had been the speaker at one point of our assembly. There's one Lalita Nayak from ST, who was a minister and well-known writer and all that. Otherwise, we did not have women from the Dalit background in politics in the mainstream. Because my guide was very clear, she said nothing to be doing, no choosing women in public life, women in education, women in health, women who are leaders in this and that, nothing doing. They have to be politics, and it has to be not local body politics, it has to be assembly level politics. I got 0 number of people to do a research related work. So then I had to change my topic. So then we said empowerment indicator, something we did anyway. So a lot of struggle. Ultimately, it ended up in my not being able to complete my writing of my thesis. I did my research and have my own. I had conclusions and everything. But because I joined Mahila Samakya at the time, at the fag end of the time, when I was researching, I lost the opportunity to complete my PhD. But the PhD work showed me that the reason for the low amount of participation of women in public life was because of lack of role models, 1, and 2, financial constraints were the biggest thing. Personal empowerment was another issue. And so also the fact that women are not fully accepted as community representatives. Anyway, so that is the content of my research. But to address how and why I got into politics, it is because of the inspiration of my guide, Dr. Regina Papa, the late Dr. Regina Papa, who herself said that unless we make the path, that women won't follow. So there's no point in me simply talking about political empowerment of women if I don't show the way. So she took the step of joining a small political party in Tamil Nadu, the DMDK, and she set up a women's wing for that party. So she was my inspiration. So then I decided that if that is what it takes, then I also need to be a role model. So she had been a role model in her own way. She fought the MP elections in which year was that? 2009, I believe. And I also went and campaigned for her. It was the year UPA 1 came into power, and Chidambaram was she fought against Chidambaram, and I campaigned for her. In fact, so my that is what, and I consciously campaigned saying that when I get into this kind of work, then this experience of campaigning will help me. So I consciously went all the way. I live quite far away from where she lives. She's in Karekudi, I'm in Bangalore. But I went there, I stayed there for a week or 10 days in her house, and I did field campaigning for her during her. So that is the way in which I myself cut my teeth on it. And then I was also invited by a mainstream political party, Janata Dal S, to join, because they were wanting Christian women to be on their team. So that they said once if there is any reservation for minority women, then we'll need qualified people. So we need women like you. You have started a minority wing and all. But they didn't keep me in the minority wing. They promoted me to the main wing. and made me General Secretary of Bangalore City Unit. So yes, I do have some political experience, not a lot, but yes, I do have. And then after that, just recently for 2 years, I was part of AAP. I just about 3-4 months back, I decided to step back because election assembly, I was preparing to fight the BBMP elections, but that got pushed back till the end of the year. And assembly elections were advanced. Happened before then. But the BBMP elections kept getting postponed on 2 or 3 occasions. I didn't have the staying power to keep campaigning for another 6 to 8 months because AAP is on perpetual campaign mode. There's no rest. Every day you have to be on the street. So it's not easy, but I enjoyed the work, and it's really good to have campaign experience, talking to people on the ground, learning what makes them tick. And even now, if I go to the field, they're asking, Madam, why are you not standing for election? We thought you were going to stand for election. So like that, there is a lot of interest. And I hope that by me taking up this post, being a woman, being a representative of, though not in Karnataka, legally speaking, I'm not Dalit, because Dalit Christians are not considered Dalit, they are considered OBC. But still, there are women who from Dalit communities who are working in the society and in community. They deserve to have a space, and they don't get it. Parties don't give them space. There's an articulate woman who has experience and training and shows the way forward. Others will come. So it's also to be a role model. It's inspired by my late research guide. And I hope myself to inspire many women, young women, to come into public life. Money is the biggest issue, though.
And I really urge you to write down your experiences, because it's not even, I mean, you've given us some headlines, really. This is the outline of the paper, but the color, the texture, what is it like when you go into campaign, the gendered difference, the caste difference, these are also things, there's very little to read about, I mean, we can only guess and project and say.
Not in the problem is not at the ground level. Ground level people accept you. It's the parties, it's the political parties which have an issue. It's the peers in the political spaces who find it hard to accept women who are knowledgeable, capable, articulate. There is serious threat, believe me, there is serious threat perception by them.
No, in fact, when you said that you have a little bit of experience and then you went on to narrate everything, I was actually thinking that's a lot of experience, given that it's not just a glass ceiling, but it's so many kinds of strictures and constraints and so much invisibility. That's actually a very large amount of experience for a woman in politics in India. So, but I won't monopolize this.
Thank you.
We'll talk another time. There are other questions.
Do you want me to read out now?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Ambedkar says villages were cesspools of cruelty. Now people are getting out of village for to improve economic standard, but still facing discrimination. What is your view on this, ma'am, and how this modernization encouraging this? So villages were cesspools of cruelty and caste. The people are like, facing discrimination, but they are moving out, right? So now people are getting out of village, but then they are also facing discrimination. And how this modernization encouraging this? That is the question.
No. So of course, see, at the time of Ambedkar's observation, that was valid. That villages are a cesspool of cruelty, all that is correct. It continues to be so, as I stated. But at one point, it was true that there was some anonymity in the cities. But if someone like me, Cynthia Stephen, daughter of engineer and English teacher from best colleges and schools, could be discriminated as a Dalit without my knowledge, Imagine a person from a vernacular school in a small town or village coming to a city and not facing discrimination. So the fact is that our society is a very discriminatory society. There are some very refined tools to understand where a person's origin is. So by some language, by some food practice, by some clothes, by some way of talking, something they pick up stuff. And then they know that you are from such and such by the name. And then they start exercising discrimination. So it is very difficult to escape discrimination in India. One. Secondly, cities have their own way of discrimination. Housing. You will find that the people living in the slums or in the very low income group areas or the homeless people will be from marginalized section. They could be Adivasis, or they could be Dalits, or they will be Muslims, or denotified tribes, something like this, usually. And so they will be from marginalized sections, not from mainstream section. This has to be understood. Why? Because otherwise they will have a network. So one person comes from a city, from a village, and takes up a house. Then he will call his brother, or they will bring little money from there. They will in places where, or they may not know how to speak the language, or they don't have the clothes which will make them look decent to go to an office job. So it will take them some years to learn all that, or they might not have regular phone. They'll have ordinary phone. They won't have WhatsApp. So many things. There are so many ways in which the city discriminates against the poor, and particularly the migrants. So yes, so there is a huge, there are lots of thresholds and barriers for the poor and the marginalized to make it big in the cities. So only people of exceptional qualities are able to do very well for themselves and their families in a short time. Given some time, given hard work, they will come up, but it takes more time.
Thank you, ma'am. The question is asked by Shivalakshmi Sakarayammal. So she renamed her name. So she messaged here. And there is another question from Sujata Modi. Thank you so much, Cynthia. There was a huge debate on the Manusmriti in Tamil Nadu a few years ago. We also engaged with the process. However, we realized every bit of our lives were governed by the Manusmriti. But even in our movements, we are not able to challenge the retrograde clothing, jewelry, vermilion marks. How do these change? Can these be changed?
See, your own body is your battlefield. You choose to wear vermilion or not wear vermilion. I don't wear any, I don't wear, see, I'm a Christian, no, I'm a married lady, but I don't wear tali. I only have chain. Nobody asks, nobody challenges why you are not wearing tali. Nobody asks, nobody dares to ask. So it's your choice. You have to not wear. I will not wear. That's all. It's my wish, my body. Whether I like it or not, it's my wish. We have to set up the personal rebellion is the only choice, Sujata. There's no other way. Little by little, talk about it in the women you like. See, there's a politics in that. You must understand. There's a market politics. There is competition for looks and attracting people. Many things are there. Some girls feel they should dress up very well, only then they are confident. And so there's a market to make women feel, they feel, oh, if you're dressed well, then you're very confident. So it's also your own personal empowerment. So I always never focus on my clothes much. I wear what clothes I have. I will not make a lot of fuss to buy the most expensive or the most trendy clothes. Basic structural clothes I will wear. That's all. Simplest of slippers. I don't do my hair in very elaborate ways. I don't wear a lot of jewelry. Basic structure will be neat and tidy. That's all. Okay, if I look good, I look good. That's all. Other than that, I don't make extra concession to my looks. And this is not just now. Now I may be in a senior position and it may not matter. But even when I was a young person, that was not a big issue at all. I gave up wearing colored bangles matching my dress at all in my 20s. So like that, each of us has to make our own choices. I know another girl who said she used to wear saris and things. At one point, she became an activist. She gave up wearing sari. She's used to wear jeans and kurtis. She says, Akka, I work among young children, young people. This is cheap and it also relates to the way they dress themselves. So for me, it is easy to relate to them. So that is why it looks modern and it looks young. That is why I'm wearing. She was not very young, not that. She was in her 30s. She was working with school children like 18, 19 and 20 years, school and higher secondary and college students. But she was able to gel with them well in her 30s because she was dressed to fit their profile. So it depends on your work. And of late, this huge thing about the craze for dressing up and putting on makeup and spending a lot of time and energy and money and, this bridal makeup, horrible amount of money and time is spent on that. Focus on personal empowerment, study, use your money, and your time for getting an extra course, learn some computers, learn some new skills, learn how to better spoken English, better writing skills, learn those things and forget about you're born with what you have. Don't minimize, but don't maximize also your looks. There are other ways to impress people. That's what I'd say.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your wonderful talk. Actually, it is very thought-provoking. So it is really great to have you here, and thank you very much for accepting to do this, ma'am. And it is definitely a fantastic curtain riser for us, this series.